No. Hippies all around me. Hippies everywhere. They want to save the earth, but all they do is smoke pot and smell bad. Help.
The Extinction Rebellion is an at once heartening and disappointing environmental movement, which many people have been asking me to comment on. The shift to more direct action in the form of these protests is worrying in and of itself, and suggests that we'll see an uptick in environmentalist terrorism sooner rather than later, for all that they profess themselves to be peaceful. It's heartening in that so many people, so many young people in particular, now care so much more passionately about the environment and the threat of climate change. It's disappointing because it's too little, too late, and protest movements seem to have forgotten how to build a consensus around a particular issue, or even to stay on point. And there's also the low-hanging fruit of hypocrisy. For people who claim to care about the environment, a lot of trash was left in the parks and streets. Plastic water bottles of the kind we're not supposed to use anymore in particular. It was a hot day, the bins were full, they were probably told to because they'd be cleared up, but still. And then there's the celebrities that flew all the way there and all the way back just to be part of the protest. Easy targets, not exactly a truthful representation of what's gone on, but still bad PR. It's also not entirely without merit. Activists often do things in the name of their activism that have unintended consequences. I'll always remember the time that a mink farm not too far from here was broken into by well-meaning animal rights activists who released the mink. Mink are not a native species, they're an invasive species, and they ended up slaughtering a lot of wildlife and have been a persistent problem, well, ever since. Then there's the inability to build consensus, something that has plagued seemingly every protest organisation since the Occupy movement, which collapsed under its own hubris and purity spiral. The Extinction Rebellion and other modern environmental movements continue to include things that have absolutely nothing to do with their message. A call for a citizens' assembly coming from Extinction Rebellion is a good idea, but it has little or nothing to do with the environment and will turn people off who otherwise might support conservation or environmentalism, but don't want to hand the running of the country over to people that they see as swivel-eyed lunatics. There's no consensus for that, at least not hitched to this particular environmental wagon. We already see the language of privilege creeping in, along with a side-eye threat to human rights in the face of environmental concerns. Within the system, rather than without the system, we can see this problem repeated, rhyming in the Green New Deal in the States. It's flopped, but part of this is probably because a great deal of it has nothing whatsoever to do with the environment. Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal shows how many people seemingly want to hitch their own politics to the climate crisis in a way that they can get it passed by hitching it to that crisis. But these are issues, these are policies, these are things that have nothing directly to do with the environment and which will turn many people off. What does a living wage have to do with the environment? What does increased paid vacation time have to do with the environment? Social safety nets that mean something in the United States? That's never going to fly with the MAGA set, who already have trouble believing in climate change. Same with healthcare, nothing to do with the environment. Education reform, nothing to do with the environment. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. Then there's the fact that these large-scale changes are unpalatable to governments who don't see the cost to their geopolitical power as being worth the reward, at least not yet. China is building many more coal-fired power stations to meet their burgeoning demand, and nobody, seemingly, wants to lose the competitive advantage that lies in not giving a single, solitary shit about the environment. Corporations certainly don't, and with their donor money and lobbying, they've captured many Western democracies, turning them into de facto plutocracies. These changes are also unpalatable to the man in the street. A very modest increase in fuel duty in France was the spark that ignited the increasingly politically confused, far-right and violent Gilets jaunes protest, which have been taken up as a symbol by the worst dregs of the far-right elsewhere in the world. There isn't the will, and there likely won't be, until the whole thing is undeniably pressing and disastrous, by which time it's too late. It's probably too late already. Sorting your recycling isn't going to solve this problem. Organic farming is only going to make it worse. Coal-fired power stations aren't going to help. Nuclear energy generation might, and renewable sources of energy might to a degree, but even total reforestation would not get us out of this problem. We may have reached the tipping point. So if these individual behaviours, slight shifts to how we treat the world around us aren't going to be sufficient, that only leaves big scientific and engineering solutions. Geoengineering, which is something we've never really done before, at least not deliberately, not on purpose. And that is fraught with risks, is highly expensive, will require international cooperation. It will have to be a kind of global Manhattan project, either sequestering carbon or placing shaders between the Earth and the Sun, seeding the oceans in order to promote algae growth, things like this. All solutions with many potential unintended consequences. We can make changes and we can make a difference. The ozone hole, for example, is healing, albeit very, very slowly, due to changes that we made internationally. That was a single identifiable issue that people could agree on. CFCs. But these new protests, these new movements, this new Green New Deal, people keep trying to confuse the issue and attach all kinds of irrelevant other things onto the environmental message. And that's why I don't think it's going to get much, if any, traction, and why I'm worried about things getting more violent, more stupid in the future. Zang. Postmortem Studios is my personal imprint, where I create role-playing games, stories, card games, board games, and more. You can get them at RPG Now, DriveThruRPG, Lulu.com, and some on Amazon. Role-playing games to die for.
Now, Bob, consider this next question very carefully. What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
On everybody being really into seeds. No, Rick, you don't understand the timeless wonder of the whole thing, right? We sow the seed. Right? Nature grows the seed. Then we eat the seed. Then we... Right, now shut